Who is ducking who? Is Amir Khan ducking Marcus Maidana? Is Tim Bradley ducking Amir Khan? Is Canelo Alvarez ducking Chavez Jr.? Is Manny Pacquiao ducking Floyd Mayweather? Who is ducking who in boxing today? Earlier today, I made a video about Amir Khan fighting Lamont Peterson. And in that video, I made the statement that I believe Amir Khan is ducking Marcus Maidana. Now, obviously, I don't know that Amir Khan is ducking Marcus Maidana as a fact. That's just my opinion based on the evidence I've seen. But I want to know who you think is ducking who in boxing today, right now. Who are the biggest duckers? Which are the biggest ducks? And not only in boxing today, but throughout boxing history. Which do you think are the biggest ducks in boxing history? For me, the biggest duck I've ever seen in my lifetime was Riddick Bowe ducking Lennox Lewis. I mean, this guy literally put his WBC belt in the trash rather than face Lennox Lewis. Now, since that time, it transpired that apparently Eddie Futch was the one behind that duck. He basically didn't want Riddick Bowe to fight Lennox Lewis at that particular time. He didn't feel that Riddick Bowe was mature enough mentally. He felt Lewis was a more mature fighter at the time, and it was too soon after Lewis had stopped Bowe in the second round in the 88 Olympics. This was only like 4 years later when they were professionals, and Futch didn't feel Bowe was mentally as mature as Lewis and therefore didn't want him fighting him at that particular time. But either way, it was a crazy, crazy duck, because it was one of them ducks where Bowe was talking so much smack about Lewis in the press, but then he goes and out and out ducks him when it's time to fight. And like I said, a recent example would be Bradley ducking Khan. I mean, Bradley again was calling out Khan for a long time, and then when he gets the opportunity to fight, he ducks. Crazy, 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 crazy. Now, like I said, I want to hear your best examples of ducking, or worst examples, whichever way you want to look at it, of ducking. But basically, I mean, it seems to me that these days ducking is becoming not only more common in boxing, but also more acceptable amongst the fans. Naptown Born, who has an excellent channel here on YouTube, did a video a while ago talking about how these days a lot of fans start acting like fighters' managers, saying, oh no, he don't need to fight this guy now, it don't make no financial sense, let him go fight this easier fight for more money, or this easier fight for, you know, whatever reason, instead of fighting this tough fight. You know, we'll do it later down the line when it makes more financial sense. Since when did fans become fighters' managers, man? Since when did ducking become a legit thing to do? Now, I understand, obviously, that fighters have to look after their own financial interests, that they have to make money, that they have to take certain fights at the right time. I appreciate that. But surely there has to be a balance, because it's the fans, it's us, the paying public, who come to watch boxing, who watch on TV, right? We are the ones who make the fighters who they are. We're the ones who make them rich in the first place. So surely these fighters owe some sort of debt of gratitude to the fans, to give something back and give us the fights we want, you know, at least, you know, 80% of the time or 70% of the time when we want them. You know, and throughout the history of boxing, a lot of the most popular fighters in the history of boxing have been the guys who give the fans what they want consistently. Yeah. Like I said, you know, these days, the whole idea of ducking has become more acceptable because people see it now as a business decision rather than fighters being cowardly. And I would say, you know, probably 9 times out of 10, when a fighter ducks another fighter, it is a business decision. I mean, these are brave guys. These are guys who step in a ring and fight for a living. Most of them, the majority of them, are not cowards. They're not actually afraid, you know, physically afraid to get in the ring and fight, you know, pretty much anyone. what they're afraid of is losing their financial status, losing their title, losing the adulation that they get from fans, losing their celebrity. These are the things that most of these guys are actually afraid of. For example, David Haye, he was ducking the Klitschko's for a long time before he actually decided to fight Vladimir, close to the end of his career. And he was basically trying to milk his WBA belt for as long as he could before he risked, losing everything by fighting a Klitschko. That's why he left it to the end of his career. Now, he wasn't physically afraid of fighting a Klitschko, but from a financial point of view, he knew that it was a big risk fighting a Klitschko sooner rather than later. So he delayed it. But whatever which way you want to look at it, it was still a duck. You understand? And I hate ducking. I hate ducking in boxing. And, some fighters duck blatantly. Other fighters duck more slyly, and they pretend that it's the other guy who's ducking when it's really them all along who's ducking. So there's many different ways that it's done, but either way is bad for the fans, whether it's for financial reasons or whether it's those few occasions where they are just genuinely physically petrified of their rival, and I think in the long run, ducking definitely hurts boxing. I'm not into all this business about, building fights up and building fights up. Sometimes fights don't really need any build up. But people are still trying to defend the fight, saying, defend the build-up of the fight when they don't need no building up. You understand? So, let me know what you lot think about ducking. What are your biggest examples in boxing history of ducking? Who do you think's ducking who right now? Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.